back. And also Rania is there. Then EVE. Anyway, we'll talk about EVE and her whereabouts. Niko na mandazi hapa, but si maisha tunaendelea nayo. Sawa sawa. Okay, guys, good morning. I know time is a ticking, but let's do it anyway. It's necessary for us to do. Let's look into the papers, shall we? I want to take you through the papers that we had over the weekend, necessary for us to do and see some of what these headlines were. The Saturday Nation tells, looking into the Saturday Standard, what did we see were making the headlines? Companies' graveyards, and that is what the headline was. Grief turns to outcry as hawker is buried, as well as never seen before dances as schools seek music honors. The headline on the Standard on Saturday, when President William Ruto stood in London, he mocked the media for reporting that companies were fleeing Kenya. But that, as always, was Ruto's trademark playbook. Dish our alternate facts. The Standard can authoritatively confirm that more than 10 multinationals have closed shop, with more forced to restructure or scale back because of the toxic business environment, punishing taxes, electricity costs, unpredictable policies, and political volatility. So that's what was on the front page of the Standard on Saturday. We look at what was on the Standard on Sunday and how things changed a little bit. Well, let's see what that was. Lies haunting Ruto is what was on the Sunday Standard. Twins Roads bosses' resignation. The bosses of Kenha and Kera resign on one day. And of course, you have to ask the questions, what was happening here? The headline on the Sunday Standard, lies haunting Ruto. He sold hope to the hungry and turned the poor against the powerful. But nearly 3 years in, President William Ruto finds himself raging at shadows. A self-styled hustler who swore to dismantle dynasties, restore dignity, and rewrite the rules. Ruto now rules like the Prince Machiavelli warned us about, where power is preserved not through justice but control. So from tax hikes to police bullets, the promises have curdled. Reassurance has decayed into rage. And as Gen Zs take to the streets demanding answers, the once maverick reformer appears haunted by the very ghosts he conjured to claim the throne. That's what it looked like over the weekend. The Saturday Nation told us about IEB bosses. That's our plan for 2027. What it looked like there, how police bullet cut short Form 3 students' dream to be a doctor. And on the Sunday Nation, how Gen Z poll will shape 2027 poll. Those are some of the things that we looked at into the weekend. Let's look at the front page of the Standard today and some of those headlines that are making news. Kenya's bold newspaper this morning. Oh no, not again. But unfortunately, again. After a day-long standoff between two state security agencies, the police and prison service, over where 24-year-old Julia Karaoke lost her life, the prison service have admitted she died in their custody, though they claim she arrived already injured. The cold deflection of responsibility, even as a life is lost, echoes the very impunity Kenyans have been protesting against. Now, pressure is mounting on President William Ruto to rein in the growing tension and apparent thirst for blood within the ranks of his security forces. There is a beautiful face of this young woman at 24. She was arrested and she died in police custody. How police conceal evidence after taking lives of innocents. A security guard was shot outside his workplace at Steamer Plaza on the 25th. He was rushed to hospital but was declared dead on arrival. A post-mortem later raised fresh questions. The bullet, which had not exited his body, was missing from his abdomen. If a bullet doesn't exit, it's somewhere in you, isn't it?
Yep.
Unless somebody did what? Took it. I'm not the dad. A man wants his name removed from a birth certificate. Okay. Missing bullets in demos raised questions. And how trigger-happy police officers conceal evidence that incriminates them. God, my goodness, these are the headlines that we're seeing this morning, aren't we? Experts link Kenya's political unrest to clashing generations. and why Western remains a critical region despite unmet promises. All right, those are some of the headlines. Looking quickly into others, Aseto.
So let's look at the Daily Nation, and the headline here is Lagat off the hook. Now, controversy as a Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat is today expected to resume office after investigations cleared him of any wrongdoing over the death of teacher cum blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody. The police chief was forced to step aside following public pressure and youth-led protests. Shall be looking deeper into that, as well as Raila and Gachagua, the unlikely kingmakers. They have strong bases but may not run in 2027. And in Akada's new drinking rules, Kenya set to raise drinking age from 18 to 21 years. And how Realtor and bank staff and cover-up rocked the 1.5 billion shillings heist probe. Those are the stories on the front page of the Daily Nation, as well as Nairobi United from instant kickabout to playing against the giants in Africa. And TSC data shows disturbing trend of male teachers' misconduct. These just coming days after the story broke of a teacher in Alliance Girls High School and how he was taking advantage of the young girls in the school. It's not game over for Ruto. Allies vow as woos rock Kenya kwanza. Shida iko ndani ya chama. Chama. Yes, Dennis.
Well, the Star newspaper. Unemployment and cost of living, major concerns. What aggrieved Gen Z want amid broken promises. There's a story there of the Gen Zs and their main concerns. So here's what Gen Z want. According to GeoPoll study, 71% say their voice is not being heard by the government. 63% say they have minimal confidence in the government. 38% say they trust the government very little. 26% say they don't trust the government at all. 24% have a moderate level of trust. 14 have very much trust, and 11 say their concerns are being acknowledged. So there's a story there around poor leadership. So the new study by GeoPoll gives a glimpse into data showing the young population, which is still concerned over taxation and corruption and other issues. Diaspora inflows stabilize shilling as Kakuzi bullish. And there's a story there. Ruto told to apologize and revoke shoot to order. So human rights NGO, the Independent Medical Legal Team, has demanded a public apology and withdrawal of the orders to shoot violent protesters by President William Ruto and Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen. More and more illegal uninspected vehicles operate as PSVs, hurting along Kenya's roads and posing a danger to passengers, but the government seems to turn a blind eye, the Matatu Owners Association has said. So graft and political meddling is keeping illegal PSVs speeding on Kenyan roads. And then DP, that is Kithure Kindiki, says Ruto needs no IEBC favors to retain seat in 2027. They are very, very confident he's going to win it. So some leaders are trying to use unrest, according to Kindiki, to ascend to power, but will be felled by Ruto in 2027. Some stories. Star newspaper.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So can we look at some of these stories in detail?
Yeah.
So the two things here, obviously, that we should be at this point looking at another death that happened within custody of the police. So you want to ask the question that exactly what happened here. It's on page 4 of the Standard. Outrage, grief as another Kenyan dies in the hands of law enforcers. Yeah, so that's the phrase I was looking for, law enforcers. Even before the nation has come to terms with the death of Albert Ojwang at the hands of security officers, another name has been added to the growing list of civilians losing their lives in the hands of law enforcers. 24-year-old Julia Wangui Karaoke, also known as Njoki, died under mysterious circumstances last Friday while in the custody of the Kenya Prison Service hours after her admission at the Nanyuki Women's Prison. She had initially been booked at the Nanyuki police station upon arrest following last week's Sabasaba protests, but later transferred to the prison facility after she failed to settle court bail. Her death has once again reignited anger and fear over what now appears to be sheer misconduct of state security agencies and apparent disregard for civilian life. Njoki was arrested on the 7th of July in Nanyuki, charged with malicious damage to property and booked at the Nanyuki police station. The following day, she was arraigned in court and granted a cash bail of 50,000 shillings, which she could not raise, and was subsequently remanded at the Nanyuki Women's Prison. I want to stop there because she could have actually been given the option of personal bond.
Yes.
We had Justice Thursday conversations here for the last, I don't know how many years, and we've been told very clearly that you can actually bond on your own recognizance, that she could have actually gotten a personal bond, especially in this that is not a capital offense. Clearly, what did they call it? Malicious damage to property. She could have actually been given a bond. She'd have been released on bond, and this 50,000 bail story, because you don't know, you're not going to tell, please, can I get a personal bond? If you don't know, now you know. Now, the following day, according to the Kenya Prisons Service, Njoki was admitted to prison at around 5:20 p.m. on July 8th with 4 other women. She was processed. She served a meal and assigned accommodation. Less than 2 hours later, at around 7 p.m., she began complaining of dizziness, headache, and stomach pains. On probing, she disclosed that she had been beaten during the skirmishes, according to a statement from the head of communications at the Kenya Prisons Service, Dr. Christantas Makoha. The statement, however, does not disclose whether she had been beaten by officers or in the protests. According to the chronology shared by Kenya Prisons, Njoki was immediately treated and referred to Nanyuki Teaching and Referral Hospital, where she was admitted at 9:30 p.m. the same night. By the following morning, her condition had deteriorated and worsened. She was referred to a CT scan at Cottage Hospital, where the required imaging equipment was available. In the knowledge of her father, one Mr. Karaoke, Wednesday night at 11 p.m., that was the 9th of July, she was admitted to the intensive care unit at Cottage Hospital. The next morning, she underwent surgery, but despite medical intervention, she died in the early hours of July 12th, surrounded by her family. The Kenya Prison Service in a statement stated that Njoki received prompt and comprehensive medical care. So, the questions then around her death remain: when she was beaten, whom was she beaten by? Because the internal injury for which she then got a CT scan to find out what happened. And based on the results of that CT scan, they went ahead and said she now needs to get surgery to fix some internal injury. What happened to lead to that is the question. So we could be alarmist here when we say, okay, she died in the hands of the security personnel, but we don't know what happened before that. So it would be good to get the answers from an investigation. And that even during the protests where it says she had been beaten, who were the people who actually beat her up? It's just unfortunate that in this situation, our first jump to conclusion is that she was beaten up by the police. Unfortunately, historical experience where this has happened before is what feeds a current belief, but in this case we just don't know.
Yeah, and you can be excused for going that direction, because obviously through the lens of this story as an entry point into so many other injustices, what then you end up drawing is systemic cover-ups will then make you think that, hey, here's another one. The story of the missing bullets.
Here we go.
In demo, victims spark questions. For the longest time, we've had situations where people are killed by police officers, or even, let's for argument's sake, criminals. They're taken to the morgue, and then forensics are done. Now, what we are starting to see is a pattern. And last week there was a story after the Sabasaba demos where families were camping outside some of these spaces. And you were told, kuja kesho saa 2 asubuhi. We'll be done with our reports because the body can't be released unless that is done. And that is done by the government. And so what the families then were complaining is that there are delays. So you go, saa 2 asubuhi, then you're told, rudini saa 8. Then saa 8 you go, there is nobody to talk to you. So you take another day. So each day you keep counting the idea here is there's a delay. So a lot of families are not understanding, okay, so why is there a delay? So we now come to this point where on June 17th, Nairobi's city center and surrounding areas became a no-go zone. The story of what happened there, we know. But what then we are beginning to notice is that the absence of bullets from the bodies of protest victims has now triggered growing concern among Kenyans and human rights organizations. Some allege foul play, accusing police of tampering with evidence to prevent accountability. Rights groups note that bullets recovered from victims can be traced to specific firearms, providing critical evidence in investigation. So, Vocal Africa, a human rights body, has raised the alarm and called on the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, to investigate potential police interference in such cases. Now, the mystery of bullets disappearing from bodies is a new and alarming trend, and there is a possibility that tampering occurs during transport, although we cannot confirm anything at this stage. That is Hussein was saying that. So, we are beginning now to see a new pattern where bodies then are ferried in police vehicles to these places, and then the government obviously has to conduct the autopsy, come up with a report, then speak to the family, or the family can actually appoint their own pathologist to work with the government pathologist so that you have that independence and you can get a concrete report. So in another case in Kiambu County, a family has accused the police of shooting a 14-year-old boy, Solomon Njoroge, and then attempting a cover-up. So according to the family, Njoroge was shot 3 times in the legs. Wait, this actually had started happening.
Aye.
So, and this is not just one. There are several stories I've read through the weekend of people being shot in the legs. So this was during Sabasaba.
It has started, okay.
You know where we're going with this, right? So 3 times in the legs during Sabasaba Day protest and later taken to hospital before being thrown into a police cell. Njoroge, currently admitted at Kenyatta National Hospital, recalled playing football with friends on July 7th when individuals in a white car began firing shots into the air. 3 bullets struck him before he was bundled into a police lorry and taken to Tigoni Hospital, then later to Tigoni Police Station. Now, his father, John Kibe, said he found the boy in custody the following day, despite his injuries, and was told police were arranging transport to Kiambu Hospital for further treatment. So, when the transportation is done, then all of a sudden when they're doing the autopsy report, then bullets are missing. And the question is, why would bullets be missing?
What's the significance of finding a bullet? Because you can do what now?
Forensics.
Okay, so here's the thing. Police hide bullets, and in these cases, police will definitely hide the bullets for several reasons. And especially in context where accountability is being avoided. That is very, very clear. So to avoid accountability is take the bullets. So some of these bullets, so you have an entry wound, but you don't have an exit wound. So the bullet is still lodged.
And it will tell a story.
Yes, it will obviously tell a story. So how is it then that the bullet is missing, but you have a wound? And the reason is when they're doing analysis of the wound, what normally happens is when a bullet hits a body, it creates an entry, all right, and possibly an exit wound. And in some of these cases, there's no exit wound, so the bullet is still lodged inside the body. So in terms of forensic pathology, what they normally do is they will look at the angle of entry of that bullet. That's what they study, and this now will go beyond into ballistics. So they're looking at the angle of how the bullet entered the body, and they're able to tell the position of the person who fired that shot, where they were standing and where this person was. The second thing, they look at the depth of that wound. How far did it go inside the body? So if it is still lodged, how far? What that then will do is it will be able to tell how close the person who fired the shot was to the body. Then the third thing, they look at tissue damage. The extensive tissue damage in the body will also tell the impact and the distance between the person who fired the gun. So when you look at what the police then, in this case, are trying to do, they're trying to conceal the use of police ammunition because police are issued with firearms, and these firearms use specific calibers. And bullets that can be traced. So if a bullet remains in a body, forensic experts can then match that bullet to a weapon and by extension to a specific officer. So when the officer is going to get the bullet from the body, is to basically conceal evidence. So you will not be able to trace who shot this person. So removing it is purely trying to cover the evidence. And there are legal implications to this because this is obstruction of justice, number one.
Absolutely.
It is.
And so when they're trying to avoid legal liability or criminal prosecution, this new pattern is actually going to be a very growing concern.
And you see, this ties together with the story of Brian from, I think it's Tingela. Or was it Senior, the one we're supposed to have here? And
the one whose
Yes.
mother sat with him
mother sat
overnight.
with him for 14 hours.
Kimutai.
And, yes, Kimutai.
Yeah.
And the entire story was because they feared that the police wanted to interfere with the body and remove the bullet. So they were like, for us to be able to get justice, we will just stick with this body until that time when we are able to be assured that all the necessary investigations that are needed, autopsy and whatnot, are done when we are there, because they could not trust that if we leave the body, we would still find the bullet in it. Because like when you're saying, during ballistics, every gun has got its own footprint on the exit of the bullet. So if you take that bullet and you just match it under a microscope, you can see and trace that to a specific barrel where it came from. So it's a clear case of getting rid of the evidence.
And you know, the thing about IPOR, because most families now are looking up to IPOR to do the investigations, in this case, IPOR will be crippled because what IPOR then will rely on is forensic evidence to investigate police brutality.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that bullet, or even the casing for that matter, that's why when you watch movies, you will see if it's a crime, what you'll tend to see is after a shot is fired, somebody will try and go collect the cartridge.
Right.
Because once you collect that cartridge, and actually that's how murder crimes are actually resolved, forensic evidence. You can be able to match that cartridge to the specific gun and specific make that actually fired it. So what police in this case then are doing in this new pattern is troublesome. If they can then go inside the bodies of the victim that they have shot and killed to trace the bullets.
But when? This is my question. When do you do that? Because one would also assume that then bodies that, are kept, they're under lock and key, they're under security watch. What kind of debasement of value have we reached to the point whereby you can say, in order to save my skin for whatever reason, let me go and devalue or even compromise the integrity of this body, even before investigation, and remove a bullet? What has to be going on in here for that to happen?
You have to be a very cold-hearted person because one, you've killed this person. Then you take a step further, the cold body that is going through an autopsy, you still want to follow this body and go inside this body to locate that bullet that you fired because you want to conceal evidence.
Evidence, for goodness sake.
And you see, in this, we're being told that these could actually be happening during transport because remember, if there is a body, the people who pick it up is the police. We're also having this story of this 14-year-old who was shot, then taken to hospital, then from the hospital taken to a police cell. So now the question is, when he was taken to the hospital, what happened at the hospital for him to be released to go to the police?
I don't even want to imagine. What are we saying?
Exactly.
That somebody tampers with the... Hey, God.
Yeah.
Mba, my language is no. Sorry, I just have to, because what are we talking about?
Yeah.
There's this story. Do you mind if I look at this one?
Sure,
because it's coming out from the courts, but you ask yourself that, it could be that on the certificate, your name is there as the father, but in one or two circumstances, you're saying, I don't want, remove it. Well, that's what's happening here. A businessman has taken legal action against the registrar of persons and a woman, seeking the removal of his name from a child's birth certificate. In a petition filed at the High Court, the man claims he is being unfairly compelled to provide for the child he did not father, simply because his name appears on the birth certificate, allegedly without his consent. The man admitted to having been in a relationship with the woman and that they had a child together, born on the 12th of December 2015. But he said the current dispute concerns a different child, the woman's firstborn, born in 2007, before their relationship began. He alleges that the child's mother altered the birth certificate and added his name as the father without consulting him. I reiterate that the interested party has misled the minor, which is known as VK, by using the information provided by the respondent, portraying me as the biological father, which I am not. This is against my will. He stated that the situation deteriorated when the woman sued him for child maintenance of the magistrates at the magistrates court, and the court subsequently issued orders of obligating him to support the child conceived before the relationship began. Even if you were Mary Immaculate, this would not have happened, according to what he's saying, because sure, there's the one that we had together, but this other one, that in the first place, one would wonder, because when you do go to get a certificate, they ask for details, but they also ask for the documentation to accompany the application. So under what circumstances was she able to put his name there? It looks like a cut and dry case to me that, you know, you're not the father. It's not possible that you would have been because you didn't know her from Adam, literally. Then I don't see any problem. You have your name removed from the birth certificate and we keep it moving. Abi? Yeah, so those are some of the stories that we're looking at. Obviously, some of these stories make their way into the conversations that we will be having later. Did I tell you? This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. DND here with you on this 14th day of July, where no matter how thin you slice it, a story continues to have two sides. We'll come and discuss more of those as we get along this morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life